You're watching the NWR Resources Conference, November 2020. On the line, we have Tesoro Resources. Tesoro holds interest in the highly prospective El Zorro Gold Project within the Coastal Cordillera region of Chile. El Zorro is favourably located and demonstrates significant scale and gold grades. Tesoro is focused on delineating gold resources at El Zorro, where more drilling is underway following encouraging results. Recent drilling has focused on the Ternera deposit, which Tesoro has drilled over a strike length in excess of 750 metres, a width of up to 600 metres, and is open at depth with mineralisation open in all directions. Ternera is only the first of 5 targets at El Zorro. During the September quarter, Tesoro expanded its land holding from approximately 110 square kilometres to 540 square kilometres following a regional review which identified prospective geology for which Tesoro made successful applications. On the line with us today, we have Zeph Reeves. Zeph is the Managing Director of Tesoro. He is a geologist with more than 20 years of experience in the resources sector, ranging from greenfields exploration, discovery, definition, and feasibility, construction, production, all the way through to closure. He was most recently Managing Director of ASX-listed Coastal Metals, which had a number of development and operational projects in Chile. He has also held senior management positions with Cleveland Mining and Ashburton Minerals, developing projects in Brazil. Over to you, Zeph, with your presentation.
Thanks, Laura, and thanks for everybody for logging on to get an update on Tesoro Resources and our exciting El Zorro Gold Project. This first slide here is quite a good overview of the area that we've been working at. It's called Ternera. It's an emerging gold deposit. You can see this ridge in the foreground with the tracks and the drill pads on it. There's a drill rig down in the bottom left here. That whole ridge is essentially outcropping gold mineralisation. And as you can see, it's a fairly desolate area. It's in the Atacama Desert. It's at low altitude, very easy to access, all on Crown land. So we can get on with the work that's required to delineate what we are finding to be now a very large and continually growing gold deposit. So Tesoro was set up back in 2017 as a private company, and it was funded privately for a couple of years. So we had the advantage of coming to market at the beginning of 2020, at the beginning of this year. The company was listed and we'd already sort of proven the concept of El Zorro and focusing in on the Ternera deposit. We drilled a number of diamond drill holes there and defined a large zone of mineralisation. We've continued on with that work through 2020. So Tesoro was set up with a focus on the coastal belt in Chile, where there was access to infrastructure and ease of work. So we're not at altitude. It's all very easy for us to get into the project and execute our exploration plans. And I guess since we've been there, the El Zorro Gold Project certainly is an emerging major gold deposit. The more work we do, the bigger this is growing. And we're focused on progressing this through development as quickly as we can. Tesoro was founded by a strong board and management team with significant Chilean expertise. So myself and Jeff McNamara, who's a non-executive director, have both financed and developed projects in Chile, and Sergio Uribe, a co-founder of Tesoro, is our general manager in Chile, and he has extensive experience sourcing and developing mining projects in Chile also. Currently, we're in the middle of approximately a 20,000 metre drill program to define the Ternera deposit. That's all going well, but that program is continually expanding simply because the size of the deposit is growing with the more work that we do. So just a quick recap over the last, I guess, 8 or 9 months since Tesoro has been listed, which was on the 7th of February 2020. The company was listed at 3 cents. It's currently trading between 35 and 40 cents. But we've had a good track record of deploying our capital effectively and efficiently. Approximately 87% of our funds are getting spent directly into the ground, mostly through our drilling programs and other exploration work at El Zorro. And our average all-in cost for drilling HQ core at our Zorro, which is the drilling contractor costs, assay costs, all of our geological support, facilities on site and so on, is around $225 Australian per metre. So a significant cost advantage to operating, say, somewhere compared to somewhere like Australia. To date, during this year, we've drilled, well, now 50 diamond drill holes for a little under 13,000 metres. So we've drilled a few more holes since this presentation was released to the market last week. And in total, we've drilled 77 holes at El Zorro. So out of those holes that have returned assay results, every single hole has returned zones of significant gold mineralisation, which is quite phenomenal and testament to our technical team and their ability to build a robust exploration model and continually achieve some quite exceptional drill results. So since we've been on the ground there, Ternera's tripled in size. We've also completed an induced polarisation or an IP survey, and we found that the anomaly generated from that work correlates very well with gold mineralisation. It's really opened our eyes to the potential scale that Ternera offers. We've conducted some initial met work that indicates that the ore is free milling, and now we have got Ternera as a very good proxy and model for gold mineralisation in this belt. We identified a number of areas that we liked regionally, and we expanded our ground position to 540 square kilometres. So it's probably important to note that Ternera is only one of 5 targets. There's 4 other mineralised surface targets that we've identified since we've been on the ground there. They remain undrilled. We're still doing some work on those to firm up some future drill targets and hope to probably put some holes into those during the year next year, and currently sitting on about 5 million cash. So you can see the share price performance there. We've performed very well. I think the market's starting to understand now the potential scale of Ternera and essentially the potential scale of the entire project. There is a lot of gold pumping through that system, and we're pretty focused on expanding Ternera to its maximum size and trying to find the edges of it, which we're yet to do. So Tesoro owns 70% of El Zorro. We have the ability to earn up to 80% by delivering a feasibility study by January 2022, and that final 20% is subject to a contribute or dilute mechanism. We have a very cooperative vendor. We've managed to accelerate our earning and ownership twice already on the project, and look, it's probably fair to say we're pretty motivated to try and get up to 100% ownership of the project as quickly as we can. So I think over the coming months or year, we'll be working on potentially acquiring more of the project, particularly as we de-risk it from a technical perspective. The project area, as I mentioned, is 540 square kilometres, and this is what we've classified as an intrusive related gold system, so highly unusual for Chile, and it's given us a very good competitive advantage in the region looking for this style of mineralisation. To date, we've identified surface mineralisation that within the Ternera district of over 5 kilometres of strike length with multiple targets. That mineralised system is still open in all directions, and we still have some more district scale work to do to, as I said, to define future drill targets there. So the project itself, it sits in the region 3 of Chile, very close to the coast, excellent access to infrastructure, which was a big box for us to tick when we were looking for projects in Chile back in 2017. So this project is very easy to access. It's only 10 kilometres inland from the Pan-American Highway, which runs the length of the country. It's only 10 kilometres from the ocean, which is important as we envisage that would be a source of water for processing for the process plant at this project. It's a very common thing to do in Chile, is to access seawater for mineral processing. There's a power line only 20 kilometres away, a HV power line, which initial investigations indicate that there's capacity on that line of the amount that would be around about the right size for us to be running a mine off. and our team stays in the port town of Caldera. It's approximately 57 kilometres by road from Ternera, so very easy to access the project from there, straight up the Pan American Highway and inland, approximately 10 kilometres, so it's only about a 45 minutes to an hour's drive. So all of our core yard and facilities, etc., are set up in Caldera. The airport's only 76 kilometres from the project, so an hour's flight north from Santiago, and then straight in the car up to the project. So again, very easy to access. And regionally, we sit in Region 3, and the capital of Region 3 in Chile is Copiapó, which is a very well-established mining centre. So it's like a very large Kalgoorlie. Population of approximately 150,000. So all your major mining companies are there, so such as Lundin, Kinross, and Barrick, and a very well-equipped workforce, mining workforce in Copiapó as well, and all of our contractors and service providers, such as drilling contractors, assay lab providers, and so on, are all based in Copiapó. So moving on to Ternera and the drilling that we've done to date, as I mentioned, every single hole that we've drilled that we've received assays for to date has returned significant intercepts of strong gold mineralisation, including 900 gram metre gold intercepts, which are listed on the page there. And I just think the important thing to note on this slide is, one, the growing scale of the gold mineralisation here at Ternera. And I think if you go back through our announcements, you can start to see and get a feel for the growth in the mineralised footprint of Ternera. And we're starting to define this well-defined higher grade zone where these 100 gram metre intercept holes occur. And we actually made an announcement this morning, which in the context of the geology, we're finding quite encouraging and exciting. We had some drill intercepts down here in this southern zone on some of these structures, which are starting to define these structures as albeit slightly narrower, but some very high grades in there, and they're being quite coherent, could add some quite high quality ounces to the deposit. And also some holes just in this section here, further expanding the mineralised footprint to the northwest. So essentially what you're looking at is geology, a series of intrusive rocks that are trending northeast across the page, across this map, and they've been hit by these northwest trending faults, which have introduced the gold-bearing fluids. Each of those faults has caused a lot of damage around them in those intrusive rocks. And so we typically see a wide, lower grade intercepts, and as the drill hole passes through each of these fault zones, the grade kicks up and we get a much higher grade immediately adjacent and within those faults. For example, hole 25, 121.55 metres at 1.32, but a number of higher grade zones within that intercept. So essentially what you're looking at is a large lower grade halo of somewhere between, say, 0.5 and 1.5 grams with high grade zones within it that are all starting to hang together really well in 3D now as we model it as we drill, and really starting to expand that footprint. So this slide is images of the induced polarization survey that we conducted, which essentially measures the electrical properties of the rocks, with a zoom in on the right-hand image of Ternera. So we found that there's a very good correlation between the IP anomaly in these pink colours and the higher grade zone and well-developed mineralisation at Ternera. And I guess it's really opened our eyes to the potential scale of the system. And we're quite encouraged by some of the holes that we're drilling to the south. We announced hole 51 a number of weeks ago that had visible gold logged sporadically throughout that intercept. And although one hole doesn't make a deposit, it gave us the geological information to have the confidence to step further south. And we're drilling some, what we would consider good material coming out of those holes further to the south, and it's essentially doubled the southern extent of that mineralised footprint. And, you know, I think hole 51 was quite exciting for us simply because of the scale that it potentially offers and expands the mineralisation to the south there. So we're actually in the middle of extending that IP survey to define the entire chargeability anomaly there and help firm up some drill targets. But it's probably fair to say the further we step south there, the better some of the material's looking. And so we've drilled a number of holes as we head south there now. We've also got some big extensions up in the north. We've drilled some holes there that have returned modest intercepts, but certainly open to the north as well. So what you're starting to see emerge out of this is a gold deposit that is mineralised from surface. We've drilled it to now, I think our deepest hole is one of these holes in the south to about 475 metres deep. We've had gold hits down at 300 metres, still open at depth, mineralised footprints approximately 750 metres by 600 metres. So we're starting to look at something with some serious scale here. So we're fairly focused on delineating that project as quickly as possible, and we're in the middle of a 20,000 metre diamond drill program as we speak. So just quickly on this slide, this is a couple of sections. So the section on the left is a long section, if you like, of the deposit looking northwest with all of our drilling projected onto it. And then a section which is marked on the previous map on slide 7, which is fairly typical of our mineralisation. You can see the importance of these cross-cutting faults, which we call the CC faults. Just the name the geologist came up with as an abbreviation for something they've observed on the surface there. But those faults really do strongly control the occurrence of gold mineralisation, but you can see where the damage zone overlaps between fault zones, we get fairly continuous mineralisation. So just stepping out to a district scale, as I mentioned, there's a number of other targets that we delineated and identified on surface and seeing widespread gold mineralisation. So from Buzzard in the south up to Torre Blanco in the north here is approximately 5 kilometres. We're doing more work on all of these targets. We're actually working at Torre Gordo now, doing some more mapping and sampling, and we're looking at Drone Hill for some extensional drilling because that's, we believe, Ternera the mineralisation at Ternera continues across to Drone Hill. So what it's really telling us is this is a big mineralising system. There's a vast quantity of gold kicking around in it, and certainly our technical team's got its work cut out to get all the work that we'd like to have done to delineate further drill targets as well as drill out Ternera. We have done some met work. Initial results very positive. Ternera ore looks as though it's going to be free milling, up to 99% recoveries. Large proportion reporting to the gravity circuit, which is probably in line with some of the visible gold that we see in the core as well. There appears to be quite a lot of coarse gold in this deposit. We have some more met work planned for the coming months. So just a quick slide on a few other things that we're doing. You know, this project is ideally located to leverage off existing infrastructure and support services. You know, you've got major population centres within an hour drive, potential for access to an existing power line to the 20 kilometres to the south and a source of water in the ocean only 10 kilometres away. So this photo is looking back towards the ocean from the Ternera deposit, and that road in the foreground is the access road into the project. So just to wrap up quickly, we're obviously in the middle of a fairly extensive drill program. We'll be looking to continue that through first quarter next year with the hope of defining a maiden resource, but that deadline continues to be pushed back simply due to the size of the emerging deposit. As I said, the more drilling we do, the bigger this gets. And also, you know, so far we're on 100% success rate for mineralisation in the holes that have returned with assays. So I think in my career, I've never actually worked on a project that's achieved that. So something quite phenomenal there. And I think we're seeing quite a special system emerge out of the Zorro project. So we'll try to get a resource estimate done by the end of Q1 into Q2 next year, again contingent on size. We're doing some MET work, and we're already kicking off that district target delineation to have a look at some of our other targets and potentially look at other drill targets outside of the Ternera district. And obviously starting to collect those inputs to plug into a scoping study and get this project moving through into development as quickly as possible. So in the short amount of time I've had there, it's a bit of an overview of where we're at today. So happy to take any questions if there's time.
Thank you so much, Zeph. That was great. We've got a few questions for you today. Firstly, someone would like to ask you if you see any risk for your projects considering Chile's constitutional debate?
Yeah, obviously Chile's going through a little bit of some changes at the moment. We don't see any increased sovereign risk in Chile. A lot of the constitutional changes are more around the election of government officials or government parliamentarians and so on. And the advice that we have at the moment is that there wouldn't be any expectation that laws regarding land ownership, mining rights and so on would be changed. So it's important to note that the mining laws in Chile have been in place since around the 1930s. They've been through a democracy, they've been through a communist period, they've been through a dictatorship and back into a democratic system, and those laws have barely changed. So at this stage, we don't envisage there would add any additional risk to developing a project in Chile.
Thanks, Zeph. And drilling into the Buzzard prospect now, when can we expect drilling to begin there?
Sorry, could you repeat that one?
When can we expect drilling at the Buzzard prospect?
We've still got a bit of work to do at Buzzard. So the initial sampling has obviously come back very good. We've got some follow-up sampling that needs to be done, but you know, at the moment we're pretty focused on getting a resource out of Ternera. We're seeing some extensions actually into the Zorro Gold prospect off the southern end of Ternera. So we're just, you know, incrementally stepping out and also looking at Drone Hill. So I think probably, you know, from what we see at the moment, the Zorro Gold and Drone Hill prospects will probably take priority over Buzzard at this stage. But look, we like what we see at Buzzard to date, and we've got some more work plans there for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that answers the second part of that question too. So what about drilling at other targets, Drone Hill and Torre Blanco? But I suppose you've just covered that off. Yeah,
look, obviously, as I mentioned during the presentation, we believe that the Ternera mineralised system continues across to Drone Hill. We can see some extensions through the IP survey that we did. So we're just incrementally stepping out to the north there, and we've certainly got some more drilling planned, which will eventually get to Drone Hill and target some of those anomalies up there. So we see some quite good geochemical anomalies coincident with the IP, which we're quite excited about.
Great. And when does Tesoro expect to declare a maiden resource for El Zorro? Will that be in 2021?
Yeah, at this stage, we're pretty sure we'll get a resource out of it in the first half of next year at the most. Obviously, it's contingent on deposit size. So, you know, we were optimistic that we'd get a resource out of it this year based on what we knew at the beginning of the year. But with the holes that we've drilled and the results that we've achieved to date, the deposit is much, much larger than we originally thought. So it's going to take quite a bit more drilling. So you can expect to see probably quite an acceleration in the work plan early next year in order to get enough meters into it to get a resource out by the middle of the year.
Do you expect to pick up any more ground around El Zorro?
Yeah, there's a few little areas that we're looking at. There's a couple of third-party areas that we're looking at, but look, we think we've got a majority of what we think is the best ground for more of this style of mineralisation and where the geological ingredients are there. So you know, we're always looking to add to what we think is prospective, but at this stage we've got our hands full with what we've got, and we'll just continue to work on that ground as well.
Mm-hmm. And lastly for today, Zeph, what is the time frame of hole 51 assay results being released?
Yeah, look, the assays are starting to flow through now, so I wouldn't expect hole 51 results would be too far away. I understand that some of our investors out there are probably waiting with bated breath on hole 51 since we announced quite a lot of visible gold in that. But, you know, again, one hole doesn't make a deposit. And I think the important thing about hole 51 is that the geologists can see there's gold in there. It was proof that at the time it was a significant step out hole. So it significantly changed the scale of Ternera. Geologists could see mineralisation was in there. So it really gave us the confidence to step further south, and we're seeing, you know, similar sorts of material come out of it, which will add, you know, quite a lot of tonnes to our ultimate resource.
Thanks, Zeph. And any questions we didn't get time to answer on the call today, we will pass on to the company. Thanks for your time.
Great, thank you.